appropriate for you and the new recipients is going to come from people who are working now.
Yes.
It's just as immoral to take Social Security as it is to take any benefit from the government. I'm not making a judgment against people because we're all in that situation. I'm on the phone with you right now. We use the internet. We pay federal taxes. We support the war, and that there's almost no way to get away from that. So I don't want anyone thinking I'm throwing down judgments here. We all are entangled to a certain degree, but any participation in the system, any of it that we do, unless the gun is right against our head, is immoral. And that's just something that, we have to deal with. I've said many times, there's blood on all our hands.
Yeah.
Just some of us have a little more than others.
Well, do we not even supporting the whole game just by using Federal Reserve notes, which are just dead instrument pieces of paper? I mean,
they're not even dead instruments, but yes, they are just pieces of paper. The second part, I agree. It's absolutely correct. Yes, we don't have to use the Federal Reserve notes because we don't have to pay taxes. Federal Reserve notes only got into circulation basically because they made it under threat of death or imprisonment that you had to use them to pay taxes. That's how they get their fiat currency accepted. Because you're forced to use them to pay taxes, but we don't have to use them. We don't. We can use farmers markets. We can use gold. We can use silver. We can use community currency, which I recommend wholeheartedly. We can barter. So yes, but there's no way that I know of that we can. At least in my situation, we can't entangle ourselves. We're stuck until that's why government has to be abolished. We're all going to be participating to a certain degree, whether we like it or not. People can say, "Well, why would you use the post office? Why don't you just send everything FedEx?" Because sending FedEx, I'm paying taxes. I'm still paying to support the war. So is it really hypocritical? Either way, you're still supporting those people. You're supporting what they do with it. You're supporting the system. There are certain things that we do. We don't participate, voluntarists, we don't participate in political elections.
Kind of like, why? How can you encourage them?
Well, right. The idea is we're not going to participate in something that's inherently evil. Yet, I've been talking with you guys, and I do it every time on my show. I talk about engaging the process when going to court. Most people vote to limit the amount of damage that's going to be done to them. Oh, my gosh, I can't vote for McCain. I got to vote for this guy. He'll do less damage. Well, when we go to court, it's damage control. I'm still engaging the system. So, because it's all damage control. So, yes, there is I guess you could look at it as a hypocrisy. I recommend people not voting, but I also recommend not, standing up for yourself and limiting the amount of damage that's done to you if you get a ticket or the IRS contacts you. You're still engaging the system.
On your website, you have a quote from the Declaration of Independence, and I've always thought that's such an amazing document. You read that thing, and boy, it's like, whoa. Where does that stand, Mark Stevens, as far as what does it mean? I mean, here's a piece of paper, a guy signed it, gentleman signed it 250 years ago. Does it have any power or relevance in our lives today, here in 2011?
Well, I use it on a regular basis because the Declaration of Independence sets forth the one function of government, at least American government, and that is to secure these rights. Governments are instituted among men. And I use that to show that there's no legal basis for pretty much every ticket that's ever written or tax proceeding or drug, any malus prohibited type thing. Because, and this is, you can see this in my standing cross-reference, which is part of where I think you're getting, you're referencing the Declaration. They have to have a case of controversy, which comes directly from the Declaration of Independence that the government is instituted to secure and these rights, or like in Arizona, governments are established to protect and maintain individual rights. So when you look at a traffic ticket or a tax proceeding or a drug possession charge, there has to be the violation of a legal right in there. as part of a cause of action or a case. If it's not there, there's no case, the court has no jurisdiction, which can't be waived. There has to be a case, and that's why I mentioned in the first hour, I always hit the case of controversy so hard because that's what the courts are limited to, and there's no jurisdiction, no subject matter jurisdiction. Why get into all this stuff about waiving personam jurisdiction where it doesn't even matter because there has to be a case? Personam jurisdiction can only be waived if there is a case of controversy, and 99% of the time, if not 100, there is no case of controversy there.
So there has to be controversy.
Well, yeah, there has to be a case or controversy.
Somebody has to have lost something or been harmed.
Somebody has to have a case under American law, or even in Canada. It's the same in Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and England, which is why we've been able to be successful there also. To have a case of controversy, you must have three things. You have to have the violation of a legal right, which is the injury. You have to have the damage, which is caused by the injury. And then you have to have the redressability of the court. The court has to be able to redress or correct the injury, the damage. And if you don't have that, you don't have a case. And if you don't have a case, the court has no jurisdiction at all. So this whole thing about, don't waive personam, you can't waive personam jurisdiction unless the court has subject matter jurisdiction.
What does personam jurisdiction mean?
That's jurisdiction over the person. You have three jurisdictions. You have jurisdiction over the person, jurisdiction over the subject matter, and then you have jurisdiction over the thing, which is in rem. And so the most important one, of course, is the subject matter jurisdiction, because without it, all of it fails. The court is absolutely powerless to do anything but throw the ticket out or the complaint.
So that's what you would use, say, if somebody wrote you a fine for buying raw milk or something.
Right.
You would go right back to that.
That's what you can use, yes. Absolutely. I have a template that's actually written for Texas that goes through this. So if someone's interested, I have that available on the website.
Is it different than in every state?
Well, no. It's just that you have different. You have to make it. That's why I had the cross-reference, so that you can get the appropriate one for your so-called state. So I was initially selling it written for Arizona and the federal courts, and then you could just go to the website and you could plug in for Texas. And I was working with enough people in Texas that I said, I'm just going to write one. Mm-hmm. And so I did it myself, and I have that available. And look, this is something we need to do, and it's also the first obligation of every judge. When a complaint comes across his desk or you get it, the first thing you have to do is determine if there's a cause of action. If there's no cause of action, you don't answer the complaint. You demur, or you do a motion to strike or a motion to dismiss. Or you do a plea and abatement, depending on which jurisdiction you're in.
And cause of action means exactly?
That there's a case, that there is a legal injury, there's damage, and the court can redress it.
Mm-hmm. And generally there's not.
No, there's not. And if you look at a seatbelt charge, they're not. If you look at driving without a driver's license, if you get a drug possession, you have it unless you stole the drug. But even if you stole the drugs, the violation of the legal right has to belong to the plaintiff. And when you do, they always say the state of Texas, and not only, even if we accept for sake of argument it's a fiction and it can suffer a legal injury, we'll give them that. They haven't pled it. It's not in the complaint.
So moving forward, these people then are going to continue to just do their machine in the hopes that nobody really catches on. That people just act out of fear and, ignorance, and they have guns and badges and papers and attorneys, and people get scared, and they just, and they just, okay, I'll pay.
And that's why, I can show with two questions to get the judge and the prosecutor to declare the cop, or it could even be, a health department agent, doesn't matter. Two questions that will get him declared incompetent. You ask him, did you file, and this is under oath when he's on the stand, on cross-examination. This is at trial. Very effective. Doesn't mean it's going to get thrown out, but most of the time it does. Did you file a valid cause of action against me? And now he's going to say yes, Because if he says no, well, then the judge is going to get really upset, and he's going to throw it out, and then he's going to reprimand the cop.
File a valid cause of action. Did you do that?
And he'll say yes.
Mm-hmm.
The next question, which will end it all, how many elements are in a valid cause of action, officer? And the judge and his attorney will say objection. Well, the judge won't say objection, but it'll be objection, calls for a legal conclusion, the witness is incompetent to testify, or it's outside the scope, or it's not a proper question. Bottom line, the judge will then sustain the objection that the witness is not competent to testify. Great, he's the only witness against me. He's incompetent to testify. I want all the testimony stricken from the record, including the charge on the ticket.
Wow. Why is he incompetent to testify? Because you asked what?
I asked him how many elements were in a valid assessment.
And he doesn't know?
Oh, they're not going to let him answer.
Oh.
Most of the time they don't know, but Patrick, the funny thing is, when we do the motion to dismiss, it's all in there. Like if someone in Texas has the motion to dismiss, it's in there. We always send a copy to the cop, because most of the time when we do that, the cop doesn't show up. But the few times he does show up, and this is something we've established in North America, England and Australia and New Zealand. It's not just here. They don't show up most of the time. Anyway, if he does show up, he knows the answer. It doesn't help him, because that's the whole point of the motion, that it's not there. But even though he has the motion, they don't allow him to answer the question anyway. They're so quick to protect the assumption or the presumption that they're wonderful protectors of life, liberty, and property. They want to protect that facade, so they don't let the cop answer. Instead, in their zeal, they impeach him for you. They say he's incompetent. Okay, strike his testimony.
Here's an email from Steve, and it says, please take this action immediately. Please contact the FDA and tell them to take their job of protecting our health seriously by allowing injectable vitamin C, magnesium chloride, and B vitamin complex to continue being manufactured and sold. Evidently, the FDA is trying to stop these IVs of vitamin C and chelation and things like this. Now, in this kind of situation, knowing what you know, how would you advise people that want to have this option for them? What would they do?
Well, one, I wouldn't tell the FDA, to allow it.
Yeah, I mean, you're just asking their permission.
Yeah, you don't need to ask that permission. One, I would support the company if they're going to continue doing it, and I'd let them know, hey, we're going to stand behind you, and I would start attacking the moral basis of what they're doing. Make it public. You can call, as long as you're professional. You can call down there and say, look, I'm from the media. I'm a freelance reporter for the No State Project with Mark Stevens, and we like to ask some questions regarding the morality of what you're doing. The morality.
Now, with these kinds of folks, why would they even care about that?
They don't. However, when you question the morality, you're just trying to get some dialogue on it. You don't necessarily have to do it that way if you're not comfortable doing it. But that's if you can, I'm comfortable doing it because I've done it so long. You want to get some dialogue on it. You want to be able to discuss the issues. Or you could just call them directly and say, look, I want to see where you have, justification to do this. Challenge them. Invite them to come on the show. You can get me the contact information, and I can call and try to get them on the show. I'm happy to talk with these people, but I have not been very successful in getting many bureaucrats on the show.
No, on your radio show you do on Saturday afternoon.
Right.
I would suspect that they wouldn't be very excited to come on.
Well, yeah, and you can ask them questions. You can ask them questions similar to like when I asked the IRS. You want to make it that you're continually attacking the moral basis of what they're doing. And that's how you get them. That's why if you do that, they won't be able to show a factual basis. Why? Or can't you prove, why is there no evidence that anyone owes taxes at all? Oh, because taxation is theft. The initiation of force is wrong. And that's your starting point.